I recently bought this Ford Transit Connect with one goal in mind, to turn it into a tiny home on wheels. After gutting it, installing a new radio and backup camera, and adding a MaxxAir fan, it's time to tackle a crucial step: framing. Why is framing so important? Well, it serves as the backbone of any successful build, providing a sturdy structure to attach our walls and furniture to. But the thing is, van framing comes with its own set of challenges.
It's a lot harder than I expected.
With some unique shapes, curves, and narrow spaces, we're gonna have to get creative to figure this thing out. So, are you ready? Let's frame this van. The first thing I did was plan and figure out where all I needed to put the framing. This is important because later on I'm going to be attaching things like shiplap walls, some cabinets, and other things like flip out table brackets, and I'm probably going to screw some furniture into the frame as well. If you look closely at this van, it's basically shaped like a football, so I have to take each unique area into consideration. I'll need different sized wood for different areas, and I already know I'm going to have to cut some weird shapes with the scroll saw to make things fit properly. So I took measurements of all the spots where I needed framing, and I calculated how much wood I would need to buy. I want to quickly add that I'm only going to be covering the walls and the ceiling in this video and not the floor, because the floor is going to get its own separate video just for all the flooring stuff. So make sure you subscribe so you can see that video when it comes out. Thank you. So I went to Home Depot and bought a bunch of pine wood and a pack of number 6 1 1/4 inch self-drilling lath screws. These screws are perfect for what we're doing because they're going to drill into the wood and the metal of the van and give it a nice, secure connection. I chose pine wood because it's cheap, lightweight, relatively strong, and it's a soft wood, so I can hopefully bend it to the shape of this football. I bought a whole bunch of 1x2s and 1x3s that I'm going to use for the bulk of the framing, a 2x2 for the ceiling near the back door, a 1x4 to attach my kitchen cabinet, and like 10 of these tiny 1/4 inch by 2 inch boards for the sliding doors. I definitely made some mistakes, and I had to go back and forth to Home Depot several times before I had exactly what I needed. So if you're doing a similar project, hopefully you can learn from my mistakes and I can save you some time. And speaking of mistakes, the first mistake I made was not buying soft enough wood that would bend to the shape of the van. So I had to go back and get softer, bendier wood. I literally picked out pieces at Home Depot that were already bent and curved. The second mistake I made was buying too large of wood. Initially, I should have just bought 1x2s instead of 1x3s because I ended up cutting a lot of the 1x3s down anyways, and I actually cut a lot of grooves in the wood too, so it would bend easier, but I actually broke 2 of the pieces as I was screwing it in. So if I could rewind, I would definitely just go with the softer, bendier 1x2s instead of ripping down and cutting grooves in the 1x3s. Does that make sense? Good. I screwed in 4 3-foot studs for the back walls, and they're looking pretty good. They're quite sturdy. I tried pulling on them and they are stuck in there, so let's move on to the back ceiling. I grabbed my 2x2, made my measurements, and cut a 25-degree angle with my table saw. I also needed to notch out the middle and 2 ends so the piece could sit flush against the back wall. I went back and forth from the scroll saw several times before it would finally sit flush.
Fits perfect. Oh, that is very satisfying.
I screwed the piece into the van and started sweating, so I had to take off my sweater.
It's a lot harder than I expected.
Some of the screws didn't want to go in, but I got them in. I got them in.
This thing is so solid. It's gonna hold anything.
And that reminds me, I'm always checking to make sure I'm not hitting anything like a wire or like a door piece or something on the other side of the metal, because that would be bad and just cause us more problems. Next, I'll start on the back doors. There's a small gap here I have to compensate for, but it shouldn't be too bad. I should have enough clearance for the frame and the shiplap to where it won't hit the floor. I cut 4 1x2s to about 4 feet and slapped those babies on there.
All right, let's see if they close properly. Looking pretty good.
Now let's move on to the ceiling battens. There's 2 ceiling battens that are slightly different sizes because the roof narrows as it goes up towards the front of the van. So I'm gonna cut 2 of the 1x3s to size and then notch out the ends a bit with the scroll saw so they can fit in a lot better. I attached the one up by the cab first, but I realized that I should have just done this a little bit later because I still needed to insulate above the cab and reattach the headliner. But that's okay, I'll just redo it later. Jeez. Yo, I just realized how crazy this thing looks in camera. Dude, that's sick. Then I attached the other batten in the back, and both of them are super solid. Now that I have the ceiling battens in, let's go attach the piece where the cabinet is gonna go. This is the only spot where I used a 1x4. I cut this thing to about 26 inches and added some pocket holes because I'm gonna attach this thing to the ceiling battens with pocket hole screws. I cut the piece so it was like super snug in between the battens. I basically just like jammed it up in there. Maybe that'll provide some extra support, who knows. Then I drilled in the pocket hole screws. I drilled in the pocket hole screws. I screwed in the pocket hole screws. This angle is so awkward to try and screw things into. I'm struggling over here, y'all. We're over halfway done at this point, and now it's time for what I think is like the trickiest part, and that is the sliding doors. I was trying to brainstorm solutions on how I was gonna tackle the sliding doors because there's this tiny 3/4 inch gap, and that's really not a lot of space to work with. So, my buddy Brian and I went to Home Depot. We did some digging around, searching around, looking for solutions, and our first idea was sheet metal. Then we randomly came across these tiny little 1/4 inch by 2 inch pieces of pine wood. So I think this is what I'm gonna go with. I guess we'll see if this works. If you guys can think of any other solutions, I'd love to hear it, so let me know in the comments below. You may remember these foam boxes from my gutting the van video. I was scared to remove them because I thought there was some kind of mechanism for the doors inside, but I realized there's nothing to be afraid of. And I finally ripped those bad boys off. And yeah, they're just foam boxes to protect the door paneling that was there before. So now, I will spend the rest of the night removing these sticky adhesives. Thank you. Let's attach these mini boards now. I'm gonna put 4 of them on each side, so I marked exactly where I wanted them to land. And I dropped a screw down in the door. After that, I realized I have to take out my flooring if I want to screw in the bottom ones. Luckily, nothing is bolted down or anything, but this plywood is damn heavy. Do you want to see how heavy this thing is? After taking out the floor, I split the wood.
Oh no. See that? That is what we don't want.
Nothing is going right for me today, but I realized that I should probably get a countersink bit or at least pre-drill my holes first. But I didn't want to go to Home Depot again, so I just continued on, being extra careful, and plus I had more than enough mini boards because they were only 50 cents each. I successfully attached the first side, and we have plenty of room to slide. Why am I rhyming right now? So I continued on to the other side and just repeated the same process. Both sliding doors are looking good. There should still be enough space to add shiplap into that tiny little gap, but we'll see as the van build progresses, I guess. What the heck?
Why am I sneezing all of a sudden?
The last pieces I have to make are just above the sliding doors. So I took the measurements, cut the wood to size, and I'm just gonna make one big piece for each side. So I'm gonna attach these with pocket hole screws and slap those babies on there. I've been drilling into the metal of the van quite a lot, so there's probably metal shavings everywhere. To finish up, I shop vacked all the areas that I drilled into. I think the framing looks pretty good. Everything's solid, it's not going anywhere, and now I have something to attach my walls, ceiling, and furniture to. How do you think it looks? If you have any ideas or advice, let me know in the comments so we can all learn from each other. Now that we're done with framing, what's next? Well, My solar panels have arrived and I have to make a roof rack to mount them. So if you want to see that video, subscribe, turn the notification bell on so you don't miss it. In the meantime, if you want to see how I installed my roof fan, definitely watch this video. Thanks for watching. Bye.